Yeah, I did that. Willis Tower now. Yeah, it's Willis Tower now. Yeah, you walk out there, it's see through. Yeah, it didn't bother me. I mean, it didn't bother me at all. But I saw a lot of people like just like taking like baby steps. But I mean, it's basically like walking. It's about the size of uh, like a closet. It's probably like 10 foot, maybe 12 foot deep. You could fit like 6 to 8 adults in there.
Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us again. Here we are on what I guess is the third day of June, and this year is just flying by. It's I imagine we'll be eating our Thanksgiving dinner here before you know it, at the way that things are going by. This week, we're pleased to be joined by Jonathan Gruber, who is with our Parks and Rec Department, where he serves as a superintendent and with the City of Decatur. And Jonathan, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So Jonathan joined the City of Decatur in October of 2019. Before his current role, Jonathan worked for decades with us, 2 decades for Sunbelt Golf as a golf course superintendent. Jonathan graduated from Auburn University with a degree in agronomy and crop science. So, Jonathan, you joined the City of Decatur Park and Rec team just before the pandemic last year.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
It was, I came in October of 2019, right before, just a few months before the pandemic hit. But yes, I was with the trail for 20 years, and so.
So Gulf Coast, the trail, kind of go a little deeper on that, if you don't mind.
So the trail, so it's the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, and it goes from Mobile to the Huntsville and the Shoals. And so during my time there, I worked at Grand National in Auburn, Opelika. I worked at Silver Lakes and Glencoe, Gadsden, and then Hampton Cove and Huntsville. So, but the trail is, there are 10 locations throughout the state. So during my time with the trail, I worked with, a lot of people don't, I was a golf course superintendent, and a lot of people think, well, golf course superintendent, so basically you grow grass. Well, there's a lot more to it than growing grass. And so I did work with contractors, did renovations, worked with budgets, managing crews. I served on the board of directors for the state, and I was over communication and scholarship committees, as well as the executive committee for the trail. And so with the executive committee, what we would do was develop business plans for the trail. We'd prioritize capital projects, look at capital equipment needs. And I was also able to, during that 20 years, I was also able to do some continuing education. I attended, it's a Wake Forest does a program, it's called the Syngenta Business Institute. And so I was able to attend it, and basically you would go over budgeting, negotiating contracts, short and long-term planning. So it was very beneficial. I spent some time at Duke University with John Deere, providing feedback on equipment. So we would we would meet with engineers and see how the mowers were built and look at problems with previous models and look at ways to improve new models.
Pretty neat.
So I was fortunate to be able to have opportunities to continue education and not just grow grass.
and be able to benefit you in what we'll move forward to shortly, but in what you do today.
Yes, sir.
But now, of course, the Robert Trent Jones trail, it's golf trail, that's kind of still tied to a little of what you enjoy today, and that's the Alabama retirement system.
Yes.
Which is managed by Dr. Bronner.
Dr. Bronner. And so, yes, Dr. Bronner, he's the one that had the vision for the trail. And one of the misconceptions of the trail is that it is operated by RSA. It's actually operated by Sunbelt Golf.
Okay,
And so we didn't actually fall under RSA. There are hotels and things that do, that are associated with the trail.
okay. I'm learning something here. That's good.
So, RSA is partnered with Point Clear Holdings, and that's where you see some of the, like the Grand Hotel and some of those are tied in with RSA.
Okay,
But the golf trail itself, yes, there is a relationship there, but the actual operation is Sunbelt Golf.
but does RSA get some of the profits from?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. And that kind of, those decisions kind of, they stayed in Montgomery, so I wasn't
gotcha.
really involved in a lot of how those financial decisions were made.
well, share with our viewers what you do now with Parks and Rec.
Okay. Well, since joining Parks and Rec, I've been very intentional in making it a point to listen to the citizens. And not just because I was here briefly and then went to a lot of face-to-face. It kind of went away when we went virtual. Everything went virtual, and we're having Zoom, and so my intention coming in before pandemic was to listen. You know what? I'm gonna spend a lot of time listening. I want to hear what people have to say, and
In regards to,
in regards to the needs, or what the citizens are looking for, and what they want for Decatur.
okay,
And so I work closely with Aaron Lang, Jason Lake, Kelly Sims, and all of them have been invaluable in my adjustment, because there is an adjustment when you go from, obviously, from a corporation to municipality. Well, the people of Decatur have been fantastic to me. I mean, I've had resources everywhere I look. I could call street department, public works, planning, tourism. The IT guys would help with my mapping, because I have to use a lot of mapping with following up on contract, especially with right-of-ways and alleys. But yeah, everyone has been really, really good to work with.
and you mentioned, you mentioned some names. So you mentioned Jason Lake, and Jason is our Park and Rec Director.
Yes, sir.
Aaron Lang is one of our superintendents,
Yes.
and Aaron does more grounds maintenance
He
and
does.
some project work.
Yes, sir. We work together in a fashion where he knows a lot of the history of some of the projects that I take on, so he provides me information on some of that. I work with him. I have a relationship. Most of the vendors that Decatur uses through Parks and Rec,
Okay,
I have a long-term relationship with them, a lot of them, all the equipment guys, all the pesticide guys, the irrigation guys. Those are all vendors that I've been doing with for my entire career. So,
okay,
so with Aaron's background being in a turf and agronomy, from Auburn also, we can bounce ideas off of each other as far as how we want to move forward with the turf on some of the fields and some of the parks and things like that. Some of the landscaping. He's got a good eye for some things that worked well in the past, some things that didn't work so well. And he's been with the city for 15 years, so it's a really good resource for me to, if I need a contact, a lot of times within the city, he'll point me in the right direction.
good.
Um,
And Kelly has our, all of our facilities, rec centers and such.
yes, sir.
Kelly Sims?
Yes, sir. And so I haven't been, because the facilities have, for the most part, been closed
During
for the
COVID?
most of the time since I've been here. So I haven't had a lot of, Kelly and I still work together on things like interviewing staff for these facilities and things like that.
Right,
with the actual operations of the facilities, I'll get more exposure to that now that we're opening back up.
Okay.
And also, I'm sorry,
Please share.
I do not want to miss, I got to say that Janice, I work with Janice and I share an office in Fort Decatur. And so Janice and I work together on budget.
Janice McClellan.
Janice McClellan. And so she has a pretty extensive background with the city as well, worked in several different aspects, but when it comes to budget questions, which I have pretty much daily, there's something brought up about budget. And so she has worked with me on making declining budget reports and some things that help me view numbers in a manner where I can be more efficient. And then I also work with Stacy Dozier at the maintenance department as well. And so she worked not just with budget items, but contracts. When calls come in for citizens have questions about contract mowing.
Work orders and things of that nature.
Yes, sir. Then I'm in touch with Stacy. She's real good about, she kind of knows what direction I want to head. She's real good about having some mapping ready for me and an idea if there's a history there that might help me to better help the citizens.
So some of our residents might be thinking that Parks and Rec strictly focuses on our ball fields and our parks and our recreation facilities. But we have a city cemetery.
Yes.
And that falls under Parks and Rec.
Yes, sir.
Constantly maintaining it. There's still, I believe, some available lots there that come and purchase those from the city.
Yes, sir.
And then there's a fund that is it's perpetual.
Yes.
So that it's able to keep that facility maintained
Yes,
forever.
sir. Yes, sir.
Perpetual is forever. And then whenever a tree, we have a storm or a tree comes down across the road, things of that nature, it's in our right of way. Who's responsible for getting that up?
We have another great combination of resources who have been with the city for long periods of time, are the supervisors, and for the tree crews, Billy Williams. And Billy does a fantastic job.
Falls under Park and Rec though, right?
Falls under Parks and Rec,
Yeah.
yes, sir. But Billy does a really good job with that crew. All supervisors have been another big part of my role of giving me the information I need to be able to do my job effectively. But yes, the scope that falls under Parks and Rec, it's large, and so it takes, you've got to have guys like that in those roles, and Decatur's fortunate to have them.
So, and one would think, you mentioned alleys a while ago.
Yes, sir.
One would think that street and environmental, solid waste would take care of our alleys. Who takes care of our alleys?
So we have contractors that take care of our alleys. There is a contractor who takes care of all the alleys in the city. All the alleys get cut 3 times a year during the growing season, and then once during the winter it goes a cleanup, cut back anything that's left from overgrowth from the summer. And then for right-of-ways, we do, as contracted as well, we do 7 cuts a season. Sometimes those guys will get more cuts in. They'll do a minimum of 7 cuts. If they can get 8, if growing season starts earlier in the year, or maybe we stay warm throughout, through October, or maybe we get warm in April, well then maybe he gets 8 cuts in. But they do a really good job of. I call them. I'm on the phone with them daily. So if there's something that's a citizen concern that we're addressing, then I work with contractors on trying to come up with a good resolution.
And you do a good job of that. Oftentimes they'll contact me and then I'll send it to Park and Rec, and you guys do a great job of getting it handled, and we certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
So the alleys get a little, while the Parks and Rec takes care of the alleys as it relates to the, keeping the trees cut back and other growth that can come in and impede our sanitation vehicles or garbage trucks, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Loader trucks and such, you gotta be able to have clear passage through there, you gotta be able to, our residents to be able to use the alleys where they need to get out and things. But when it comes to putting the slag down or the stone surface, now that goes back to street and environmental, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
it's a little bit of teamwork in there.
It is a lot of teamwork. And then, as I was saying before, a lot of times when I do go to address a concern of one of the citizens, I look at it and I go, well, you know, I need to pull in street department or public works and get their take on this and see if we can try to help the citizen out here. And they never hesitate. They're always accessible. They'll meet me, and we're more than happy to meet with the citizens.
Good. So beautification, it can be a broad term and
Yes.
have many meanings. What does a beautification initiative mean for our city?
Well, I agree with you. It could be a very broad subject. I've looked at, I've researched a little bit of how beautification plans look in different cities and try to look at things that seem to work well and get some fresh ideas. But I'll say that the number one thing as I'm listening to citizens, I'm hearing overwhelmingly, number one is trash, hands down. We've got to get Decatur cleaner. Now, it's obviously in a pandemic year when we historically rely on inmates to help with the trash cleanup. Well, not having them during the pandemic has escalated the trash situation. So now we're seeing much more than you would normally see in Decatur. And
It's really across the country, but people
Yes,
care
sir.
about Decatur, huh?
yes, sir,
Yeah.
across the country, because I'm also in communication with people in different cities. I mean, I'm hearing the same thing everywhere.
Sure.
And hopefully, we will be able to in the foreseeable future, it appears that we will get some inmate help if they are vaccinated and things like that. So
Saw an email on that yesterday.
yes, sir, I saw that.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that's not too far off on the horizon, and that'll certainly help. But beautification also, it's also community efforts where residential and businesses, they get rewarded for keeping their properties aesthetically pleasing. I spent some time, I was looking at some things from the beautification crew from, I guess it was about 10 years ago. And I went and I saw Carl Pruitt, and he's got 3 closets of things that were kind of stored from beautification. And some of the signs and awards that were given away, it's
Carl's
Yes.
our city engineer.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And so he's storing that. I'm in the process of trying to help him get some of that out of his way, so we can have some of the storage back. But some of the rewards for just the beautification awards, they're nice to put up in their yards or businesses, and
They are.
and it gives them it should give citizens a sense of pride.
Some people will do some beautification around their award plaque.
Ideally, it would give them a more of an incentive to try to keep things well-groomed, landscaped. And that would certainly be the hope.
Have you noticed Alabama Farmers Co-op and their new fence and the beautification that they did? It's on Church Street.
Yes, sir, I did.
That was a tremendous spend.
Yes.
And a major improvement.
Yes, looks great.
Yeah,
Great.
nice corporate citizen there doing that.
Yes, they did a great job. Yes, I saw that.
So we worked on we're working on something together. We did a drive around
Yes.
and looked at the belt line and some of the needs there, and looked at Highway 31 from the belt line, or Highway 67, to our city limits to the south. And right now, we do mowing in those areas, twice a month?
Yes, twice a month.
Okay.
Weather permitting,
Okay.
twice a month, and that's
And then-
mowing and trimming.
And then whenever we had Department of Corrections, we were also doing litter collection through there. And we've
Yes, sir.
kind of been in a pinch without them here recently, running a much smaller crew. And so Monday, we'll present to the city council a plan to do daily litter collection along the belt line and Highway 31 in the area that I just noted a while ago, and then weekly mowings. And hopefully the council will approve that.
I hope so. I think it would be great. I think that's something you would see an immediate improvement, because all of a sudden you go from right-of-ways on our main thoroughfares. The most high traffic areas in Decatur, with right-of-ways that are covered in trash by mowers who don't have a trash crew picking up in front of them, so it goes to pieces of trash.
It's
everywhere.
like cotton been thrown everywhere.
It does.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like. And so, if that is able to pass, then we would get with our contractors to put the crew together, and a daily trash crew going ahead of the mowers. Obviously, the initial pickup will be huge because there's so much. But then we grab a hold of it, and you'll see those immediate improvements.
I think the council's gonna get behind this. I'm eager to move forward with it. Now, the annual cost for this is right at $358,000, if I
Yes, sir.
recall the numbers. And then to do that from, let's say we meet, the council were to approve this on, it would be June the 14th, and it's gonna take the contractor a little while to get ramped up to where they're able to start performing the work.
Yes, I have just let them know that this is a possibility, that this is something that we're looking at doing. That way I wanted to make sure that they were able to get the required number of people to do that work. So, if it does pass, then yes, the contractors, they would need a little bit of time. They won't need a lot of time, because they do have some ideas of where they would go to be able to get the correct number of people. And so actually one of them, I talked to one of them this morning, and he said, if that ends up panning out, it's the guy that's looking at the trash crew. If that does pan out, give me a week. I was like, only a week? That's pretty good. Only a week.
Good. That's good to hear.
So, and on the mowing side, it may be a little bit longer, but not much longer.
Okay, so now this is one of the first steps that we're going to take, and then we plan on going into different phases, hopefully expanding our efforts as we move forward. What could the city or our residents look forward to?
Well, expanding it going forward, obviously, if we are able to bring in the extra cuts and the cleanup crews, the trash crews, and then we could utilize the inmates on our side streets everywhere. It's off of our main thoroughfares, is what I consider a side street.
First, we could make a request that our residents stop littering, right? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, please don't throw your trash out the windows or obviously leave it sitting around. I know the downtown area is well equipped with trash cans, and so we do the best we can to keep those changed out, so that there's always a place to put trash. So.
I interrupted you. Can you talk about what you got as far as expanded?
Well, we would want to get in the school systems. We would want to educate more of the kids so that they get good habits early, and so they're aware of our beautification efforts. And so as they grow up and become contributing citizens to Decatur, then they have that sense of I want to make my city look good. And so just getting in and doing some education for the kids in the Decatur schools would definitely be beneficial. And then eventually, if the 6th Street Corridor project, as that starts to unfold, that would need. That's something that we would certainly want to maintain at a high level. That's that big first impression, and when they come across the bridge. So we would want to put a crew, say, that would work from Delano to the bridge, to Rhodes Ferry, and maintain all the landscaping that would be associated with that. We'd also need to be very smart in how we go forward with that, because it would need to be maintenance friendly. And I say that as in we need to think about what types of plants we're putting in. Do they need irrigation? Do they need? Do we want to start out with a small amount of annuals and go to a larger amount once we know we can handle that amount? We just need to be tactful and smart in how we go forward with it. But some of the drawings and things I've seen are certainly very promising for really making a big impact on Decatur. So I'm looking forward to that. And when Mr. Cant was in town, Mr. Cant was he was previously he had several terms as mayor in Fairhope, and I know from my experience of going to Fairhope, it's always you kind of have that wow factor when you go in. And one of the things that kind of grabbed me the most by visiting with him was the first thing he said to me, because I was complimenting on how my wife and I like to, when we would go to Point Clear, we'd drive through Fairhope, and so he said, well, he goes, I want people to, when they pull in, I want them to say, wow, I'd like to live here. Well, that's, it's a pretty simple statement, but it's a lot of truth in that. Is that not what that's what we all want, right? And that's what I want. When people pull in Decatur, I want them to say, wow, I would really like to live there.
Sure.
And simple statement, but had a lot of value to it.
So I've told the story, and I'm not going to take our viewers through it again, but we have a new neighbor that just moved here with the FBI, and they really didn't want to come to Alabama, but they love it. Well, we went to tell them about the events that were taking place at Point Mallow this weekend with the Alabama Jubilee, to make sure that they had an opportunity to go out there. Mm-hmm. And they had shared with one of their relatives how much they're enjoying living in Decatur, and so that relative moved to Decatur. And it has that effect of inviting others. Yeah, the spinoff. So taking your experience to the city, your background, what goals do you have with you and your team to accomplish over the next few years?
Well, in terms of beautification, the goal is for citizens to embrace our efforts and want to do their part and help clean up Decatur, both residential and commercial. I would want to develop a beautification board and committee to assist with any ideas and prioritize the needs of the citizens, and take steps to improve the city's appearance in terms of trash cleanup and mowing frequency. Obviously, that would be that's phase one, but expand on that.
Right.
And begin establishing a beautification team of employees with the intention of expansion over the next 2 to 3 years.
Nice. Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining us today. What's the best way for our residents to reach you?
A good contact number for me is 256-341-4760. Or you can email me at jgruber@decatur.al.gov.
So it's Gruber
Yes,
at
sir.
Decatur-al.gov.
Yes, sir.
All
That's
right.
correct.
And what's your phone number again?
It's 256-341-4760.
And we want to thank our viewers for joining us today. Remember that you can sign up for our newsletter by texting Decatur at 42828. That's 42828. Our next edition will come out tomorrow, and we'll see you back here next week. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.